everyone. A bit of a shorter one this week because I'm missing my partner in crime. Jane Billham is on holiday, and we usually record our joint podcast on a Monday, and then edit it and get it out on a Monday evening. But I'm on my own this week, and I thought I'd come and talk to you about a number of things. The first thing I want to talk to you about is this whole idea of overnight success. And a little bit weaved into this is the idea of social proof and testimonies and yeah, they're great, but also there is a bit of a problem with them. And I want to explore that with you. And the other thing is this whole idea of monetization and that nobody can take your learning away. And that's what I'm sort of weaving all together. So why don't we start with the idea of monetization? And for a while, going back about 10 years ago, or maybe even a little bit longer than that, I had this thing. So I was trained in this particular thing called SolHold Approach. Some of you will know this really well because it did do the rounds in education. But before it sort of made the mainstream school environment, it was in early years. So I did a lot of work in early years, in my early 20s and mid 20s, did a lot of parenting groups, dad's group, worked with fathers, and then we worked with preschools and nurseries and those kind of places. And I got involved a lot in sort of working groups, so working with health visitors, midwives, doctors, dentists, and that kind of stuff. And the idea with those sort of working groups is one, working multi-agency, but it was about bringing together services so that we were all talking to one another. And there was a little pool of money, and I won't go into all the details. Anyway, I was trained in the SolHold Approach. I really loved it. It made a big impact on me as a professional. It made a huge impact on me as a parent. And I was really driven about doing more with it. I wanted to go and share this. I'm quite passionate about it. I felt like the content was done in such a way that it could help anybody at any level, even at corporate level, even within businesses. There's a need to understand some of these basic psychology things around the SolHold Approach, which is basically reciprocity, behavior management, and containment. Once you understand about reciprocity and containment, you can have better behavior management techniques in the main, right? And that's me giving you 2 days worth of training in about 10 seconds. Now, I absolutely loved it. So I went on this training session and we spent like 2 or 3 days becoming what we call train the trainer. And I'm sure lots of you have sort of seen these courses before, maybe even taken part in them. I got involved in everything that I could. And so whether there was an opportunity to deliver this SolHold Approach, I would say yes. Now, let's fast forward quite a few years, and I'm turning up at my first teaching post, which was, I did a GTP, which I think is now School Direct. I knew the head teacher in the school, and when I'd got accepted onto the post, he was like, "Look, Rich, we'd really love for you to come and deliver whole school training around the SolHold Approach. We really like it. We know you're really experienced in it. Will you do that for us?" I was like, "Yeah, of course I would." And so we set up the day. It was like we had a whole inset day to do it, and then there was further meetings through the year because that's pretty much how you have to embed it into practice. And it went really, really well. So much so, like that's probably about 9 years ago I did that. I still have teachers from that school contact me and say things like, "Oh, I did some good containment today, and I noticed some really good reciprocity." It's a bit of a strange thing. I went back into school a little while ago, and it still gets spoken about, which I absolutely love. I think that's a great way of leaving a legacy behind. No claim to the content. I just deliver the content, so it's certainly not written by me, and but it's fantastic stuff. I really enjoy it. And I did a podcast with Jane, maybe not the last one, but the one before, where it was about the power of yes. And it made me reflect back on what kind of things have I said yes to over the years that have made an impact in my life. So the second year of teaching, we were a training school, so our local uni had teachers, had a teacher course there, and we used to take on students, so we'd become mentors, and all those kind of things would happen. And every now and again, the university would reach out and say to the schools, like, "Have you got anything that you'd want to offer to our students?" And there was an opportunity to get involved in like this conference day and host a workshop. So I'd have been about 32, so it's probably about 10 years ago. And I was like, I went to the head teacher and said, look, I'd really like to do this, but I don't quite know. Do you think it's something they would be interested in? And he was like, showed loads of encouragement. He's like, yeah, just go and get involved. It'd be really good. By doing that, and I said yes, and I went and I delivered the workshop, I think 3 times over the course of the day, met some amazing people, not just within sort of Christchurch University in Canterbury, but also like other schools got involved. So I got to meet governors, I got to meet other head teachers, work with other teachers, Senkos and that kind of stuff. So if you consider like the Tutors Conference, which either you've attended or you've heard me talk about, like that, but it was slightly larger. There was probably about 500 people, well, maybe a little bit more. And I got to work with about 60 to 70 of them through the day. But so, and it was great, and I loved it. And I was always thinking, oh, I'd love to be able to do this like privately and go and sort of monetize it in some way, but I didn't really know how. And so I put a lid on it. And whenever there was an opportunity to talk about it, I'd say yes. And then about 4 months later, there was the director of the teacher training section at Canterbury Christchurch University contacted and said, we'd love for you to come and do like a keynote speech to our students who are doing the school direct. So basically what I've done a couple of years previously, but you get to chat to them, talk to them about the course, but we'd really like you to talk about the SolHold approach. So the power of saying yes had put me onto a different platform, and I had made really good connections with the lecturers at the university. And I loved it. And I did it for about 3 or 4 years. I can't remember. And then the director actually moved on to a different job, and then it kind of just fizzled out, which I was a bit gutted about because I really did enjoy doing it. But on the last time I did it, Porter Stone, who was a director, was like, Rich, you should be doing this like on a larger scale. This is something which schools really need. I said, oh no, I'd love to do it, but I just do not know how to monetize it. I don't know how to set this up in a way where people can find it and book it and I can take money. And so I never did it. But in the back of my mind, I was thinking, I'd love to do this. This is something which I'm really passionate about. I've got lots of knowledge, got lots of experience of delivering it at different levels. But because I didn't know how to monetize it, there was a dead end. And I'd already started doing reading the self-help books, the business books. I've got a business degree, so that's always something I've been interested in. But that felt like it was a dead end. And so nothing happened with it. And I've never really picked it up again, even though I would love to kind of do a half day or offer a full day's training to people. It's not something I've ever picked up again. But reflecting back from my perspective now, I'm like, well, I knew then that there was something that I could do and I could monetize, but I just didn't know how. So what have I done between then, which was like maybe being 33, 34 to where I am now, where I'm 42, where I know how to monetize things now. What did I do? Well, I started off with free stuff, like doing challenges, listening to podcasts, but really where I started was with books, which then led me towards podcasts and going to conferences and connecting with people who do know how to monetize, and then me sort of buying like coaching courses or programs, masterminds, so I can learn from these people. But once you know how to do it, it's something you can repeat over and over and over again without fear that something can be taken away from you. How many times have you read in magazines, stories, or listened on podcasts that people, built up this massive business, lost it all, started again, and did it all over? It's because they're not starting from scratch. I remember growing up, a bit of my money mindset issue is that growing up and hearing about like how money's the root to all evil and all those wicked phrases around money. But I can remember talking with my mum in particular about, she was very encouraging of like, I suppose, making sure that I was still curious and there was an entrepreneurial mindset, even though we probably wouldn't have called it that at that stage, probably didn't really even know what that really meant. I remember chatting to my mum and she'd be like, I don't understand how these people can do all of these things, build up this massive business, lose it all, because that doesn't make sense. But then within a year, they've got it all back again. How do they do it? And now I'm sat here thinking, I totally get it, because they've got the skills in play. They don't need to relearn anything. They've got everything they already need. And that sort of leads me into like this like overnight success type thing that we see on social media, that actually there's no such thing as overnight success. We sort of hear this more in sport, I find, particularly in elite sport, where somebody trains really hard. We've just had the Olympics, right? It's an Olympic year. And the 100-meter sprint gets used a lot for this. It's like they train for 4 years. They schedule 4 years worth of competitions and training to peak for 9 seconds at that particular time. And so they do 4 years worth of training just to give themselves a chance to get a gold, a silver, or a bronze medal, or even just to make the Olympic final. They are not an overnight success if they get a gold. You know, very rarely do these people just burst onto the scene and make a big impact. It's based upon all the training and things they've done in the past that lead them to that point. Nobody can take that away from them in the same way. Like if you teach yourself, or if you go and find someone who can help you understand how to monetize your ideas, no one can ever take that away from you, regardless of whether an idea works or not. So you can end up going forward and go, well, I do understand the process now from something that starts in my head to taking it forward into actually getting money from someone who would want this thing that I've created. And so everything starts in the mind, but you also need to sort of put together the sequences that you need to use so you can take it from idea into actually selling something as a service. And I think we underestimate like how powerful that really is. So when I talk to my younger self, that 34-year-old who had this thing that I think schools would have paid for, preschools would have paid for, parents would have paid for, perhaps even corporations would have paid for, and not knowing how to get it out there, to who I am today, where I can create an idea in my mind, I can test it, I can put it out to an audience because I understand how to grow an audience. Now I can take an idea and monetize it in a relatively quick amount of time. It doesn't mean the service is the right service. It doesn't mean the idea is the thing that's going to make a lot of money, but I do know how to do it. Nobody can take that away from me, in the same way that if you go through a similar process, no one's going to be able to take it away from you. So how do we go from point A to point B? Well, look, we're all different. And this is where the idea of overnight success we have to put to one side. So let's take, for example, I did a challenge week last week for tutors. We had about 440 people sign up. Out of the 440, around about 360 people took part. And from there, around about 200 and between 200 and 250 sort of took part through the whole challenge all week, which is really good numbers for something we haven't tried before. So at the end of the challenge, it was like, look, let's actually put real value out there first. I'm a big believer in that. Let's change people's lives up front, because they're far more likely then to go, oh, the course, right. Yeah, definitely need the course. Or even if they don't, they're able to start their business and start making money, which puts a lot of good energy out into the world, which is what we should all be doing. So now we've done that. Now, and people are kind of interested in the course, because we're kind of in the in the middle of selling it this week. It's really easy to go, right, previous people who have done the course, who have done really well, and start rolling out like the people who are kind of broken through 5K a month and now have like a load of tutors working for them and are doing really well, making a big difference in the tuition industry. And then bringing them in for interviews, putting them on the website, which I have done to a certain degree, but with a caveat. And this is what I'm going to talk to you about today. Look, everybody has a reason why it feels like they have reached that overnight success. I spoke with Gemma Zoe-Smith quite a while ago now. So Gemma runs something called the Education Hotel, really a large agency, turns over and maybe even profits. I'm not sure. Gemma would have to confirm, but like multi-six figures every year, right? So super successful. And in the podcast where I spoke to Gemma, the question, and you don't often get a chance to interview someone at that level. So you need to make sure you ask the right questions so that everybody can learn. We went a bit deeper. I was like, well, where did these skills come from? Because Gemma actually left teaching after qualifying. She didn't go into the classroom. She's like, no, there's another way. And she set up a tuition business. I was like, well, that feels like overnight success. So tell me a little bit more. And so through questioning and going a bit deeper, her story is that at a really young age, she worked for companies and she was building up services in an entrepreneurial way for other people. She developed a set of skills through lived experience, which meant when it was her turn to do it on her own, she was drawing upon all that experience that she'd already learned, like from others, I suppose, being around others, and actually from a natural perspective, I suppose. She had a natural skill set for it, which is amazing. It's great. But if you were looking at direct comparison, like what she managed to achieve from starting up her business, which I believe was 2020, right up to now, which 2024, to go from zero to something that was turning over or potentially making multi-six figures profit every year, That feels overnight success, unless you really truly understand the path that she's traveled. And that's the problem with testimonies. That's the problem with social proof, is that you don't know the path that people have walked down. There's two people that I use on the website who did the course like recently within the last year, got on to do really good stuff in the tuition industry. Their path was similar to mine, being teaching, drawing upon that experience in terms of the tuition to make the tuition really solid, and then growing through word of mouth. Doing the course last year, I think last September 2023, and had an amazing year, like breakout year, life changing. So they're on the website because I understand that. But there is a danger that we just see this thing and go, right, I've got to do it because I'm going to be like them. But what if it's not like that for you? Perhaps your journey needs to be slightly different. And we call this like writing our own story. So what skills are you bringing? What can you lean into that's going to really help your business grow? Perhaps it is like pedagogy. Perhaps it is just all based in tuition. And then you're like I was when I was 34, thinking, I've got this thing. I just don't know how to monetize it. That's where mentoring comes in. That's where attending courses come in. That's going to networking, leaning into people who do know how to do it, and you getting some information. But you've got to go and write your own path. Just because somebody else can take a course and 1 year later say, yeah, we was doing 9K months, or yeah, now I've got like 5 other tutors working for me, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to relate to you, because they've got their own skills that they're bringing to the table. They might be drawing upon experiences they had in their late teens, early 20s that perhaps even they've forgotten about. So you need to write your own story. I believe you have to come into any investment into yourself with both eyes open, asking the right questions. Now, social proof works. Social proof works. So if you're from a tuition perspective, if you can show that, the majority of the people that come through your tuition world do well, however the way you want to put success out there to parents, that is going to help people make more informed decisions. I think when it's investing in yourself, I want you to ask deeper questions. Is this person someone I can rely on? Is this someone who I vibe with? Is this someone who when I ask a question, they're going to give me a genuine answer, or wrap it up and give it back to me in a way that I understand it better for myself? These things are important. So it's not about disregarding the success people have had through the course. It's just about developing the understanding that we all bring something different to the table at different stages of our lives. So that was just a quick overview of testimonies, social proof, and the fact that we can write our own story. I don't believe there's any magic source other than making sure you can go from your point A to your point B in the most efficient way. You can do that in your own vision, in your own way. Like I know I've spoken to Sharon Cordy about this. Like in her early days of starting a business, she did a load of challenges, 5-day challenges, 7-day challenges, 30-day challenges, before finding a mentor that would help set up the business in the vision that she had. In the same way, I've done exactly the same. I've got a vision for my tuition business. I've got a vision for Tutors Who Thrive. I work with mentors. I work with business coaches because I know I need the accountability, but also there's stuff I don't know yet that I know I'm going to need in the future. So it's about finding the right support at the right time, and also from the right person. And really view your own business like its own story. So yes, having a bit of social proof means that, okay, that gives me some confidence. So it's not about comparison. It's not about going, right, I want to be this person in a year's time. You still want to be you, and you still want your business to represent you in the best light, in your vision only. And that's a good way to end this podcast. I'll speak to you all soon. See you later.